For years, it seemed like third-party developers were absolutely desperate to get 3D racing games on Nintendo's handhelds, even though those handhelds weren't yet powerful enough for it. For instance, on the Game Boy Advance, a very 2D console, I had Colin McRae Rally 2, which was a 3D racing game. It was very impressive seeing them manage to get that game running on that little handheld, but at the same time you could really tell that the handheld just was not made for running that kind of game on. The DS, of course, was a little bit better, but in my eyes it still wasn't really ready for racing games, especially as it didn't have any analog controls at all. So, when the 3DS came out, can you imagine what the developers thought? They thought this is the perfect time to just completely give up. They did not care at all about getting racing games on this console. When I had an itch for playing a racing game on here, I had to absolutely scrape the barrel trying to find something that would fit what I wanted. Eventually, I did get something. WRC FIA World Rally Championship, the official game. Catchy title. I think I ended up getting this from France or something. There weren't many copies available. The feedback I saw for it online was pretty mixed. Some people liked it, some people absolutely hated it, so I wasn't sure what to expect. When you get into the menu, it absolutely screams shovelware. I remember when I first got this, I actually found a way to crash the game just by mashing buttons on a certain part of the menu. I couldn't reproduce that for the B-roll. But I do very distinctly remember managing to do that. And when you want to select a car, you can't just select the car that you want. You're given an option of various drivers that you can choose. It gives you a bunch of presumably real-life rally drivers to choose from, and you unlock more as you go through the game. I guess it kind of sucks to be one of the starter drivers. I mean, that's kind of an insult, but anyway, it's a very strange way of presenting the cars, but I guess it works, kind of. Once you actually get into a race, though, it is really surprising how impressive the game looks. Obviously, it's not much by a modern console's standards, but for a Nintendo handheld, it is pretty stunning to look at. The environments look really nice, and the cars are nicely modeled too. I also really like the actual design and layout of the tracks. They're really fun to race on. There are some annoyances, like there are some parts of the terrain which are quite easy for your car to get caught on, and it feels like you're running into a brick wall when it happens, so it's pretty dangerous to try and cut corners in this game. If you go off the track at all, you are in some serious danger. Also, the controls, the analog stick is very twitchy. I can see why some people could really hate playing this game because of that. The thing is though, if you're into slightly more realistic and more difficult racing games, you can definitely overcome that twitchiness, and when you do, it actually starts to feel really good to control. Obviously, it can't be super realistic on the 3DS, you don't even have analog triggers to accelerate with. So there have to be some compromises in the amount of realism it can have. But it still feels believable enough. And it can be really satisfying to get a nice drift around a corner, or to take a hairpin bend neatly. If you're looking for a slightly more realistic racing game on the 3DS, this is not only a good candidate, I think it's your only candidate to consider. What this game does most of all for me is really show what could have been if the developers and publishers had really wanted to put good racing games on the 3DS. It clearly could have been capable of a lot more than it ever got the chance to do. There were also very few 3D platforms on this system, and I guess developers must have just not seen it as popular enough to bother making them for it, because there was so much potential here that just got thrown away, and I think that is a real shame. But thank you for watching all the way through my thoughts on this game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to dislike and unsubscribe, and don't you dare leave a comment down below, you utter